I am just going to queue up some music from my folder of weird background music that I've made over the years that I can use all I want because it's mine and it doesn't exist anywhere. It won't be detected by the IP police and all of that stuff. So might not fit the game, but I'm gonna loop it all up anyway. Hope everyone's doing good today. I am probably going to start doing more dev streams like this in the next month or so. Basically, I've been doing some freelance work on an educational game for the last 6 months maybe. And because they're working Agile Scrum, it sort of eats up my Monday and Friday mornings because they always want to have a set call on those days. And I am finishing work on that project in about 2 weeks' time, and that should free up more time for the channel. I already probably do a 40-hour work week on the YouTube channel as it is. But now I will be, just sort of in more of a position to stream more days a week, I would say. And I know this time of day is not great for people in the States, because you're all sleepy tired and you're in bed and so on. But it is just the easiest time for me because I've got kids. Oh, there we go. I've got some like really weird music in this playlist. Some of it's like cyberpunk music and some of it's like weird dark fantasy music, but I think it kind of all suits the game I'm making at the moment, so I will queue it up regardless because I think it fits what we're doing. So today I'm going to be trying to get the goat working in my game, which is that one is just too distracting. We're trying to get the goat working in my game, which is a bit of a milestone for this project because I haven't really had any mobs yet. And the game is becoming sort of gradually more Minecraft Terraria-ish and procedural. And I don't necessarily mean procedural just in terms of generation. I mean that there is like a bunch of elements where they have quite rich interactions and you can use them for different things. And I'm enjoying that, but it has put me off of implementing any sort of NPCs or anything for a while because I know they're going to be a difficult area. So what I'm doing today, I'll kind of show you where the game is at, because I've basically implemented this home area. This is where the kind of investment part of the game loop will be, where you take your coins and you spend them on upgrading your deck of rooms. And then you can actually start a run by jumping through this teleporter thing. So this is what a run looks like in this kind of purple grey room. You've got your deck of rooms you can build the level out of, and it's kind of gives you the experience of sort of playing a mini metroidvania in a level, but you're building it as you go along. Apologies if some of those sound effects are a bit harsh. I'll turn that down actually, because I know hearing the same sound effects over and over again can be a bit harsh. I've used these very, very lo-fi sort of 8-bit sound effects, and I'm probably going to keep them, but I will layer more realistic sound effects in with them because I think that is a good approach for audio design for this kind of game, where it's sort of nostalgic, but it's not really obeying any modern pixel art rules or anything like that. So, basically, I added in a bunch of stuff since my last devlog. The last devlog I did for this game, I had just added in the first kind of stuff that could like threaten or hurt you in the game. So I had these red rooms like the nest, and they threaten you in various ways. There's these horrible fungal stalk looking things that spread spores into the environment, and those hurt you if you run through it. And then at a more kind of breaking the whole game level, the red also spreads out. And that means if you build the level really big and you don't create a way to get back to the start point, which is over here, and you only have one way through and you've built a red room there, there's a chance that the sort of fungal blocks will spread out and block your way back, and you'll have to like forfeit your run basically. So that's what I was doing when I did the last dev blog, was adding that stuff in. There are also some monsters that can spawn in that space, but there's a special room called a hatchery that spawns those. And the stuff I've been adding since then is this little guy over here, who I'm going to kind of try and program this morning. There's a weird little bug when I jump and hit things at certain angles. I just sort of clip up onto it. I've added all of these food ingredients, one of which is the goat, and he's going to make milk when you feed him enough. He's got like a behavior where he's supposed to jump out of your hands after a while if you're carrying him around, so he sort of, you know, behaves like you'd expect a goat to behave. But at the moment, he's very broken, and I'm going to spend this stream fixing him. I've also added... I'm going to break the level if I do this, because I'll take away the platform underneath the start position, which is something I need to put a failsafe in for. But basically, I've been gradually adding more and more uses for the different rooms, and I want to kind of create a situation where eventually the player can learn what's in the different rooms and combine them thoughtfully to actually achieve a specific outcome. So at the moment, you can see there's this, if I spawn this room, the clearing, this always comes with an axe and a cauldron. And you can't really use the cauldron until you've lit it, and so you need a fire from somewhere else. But one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to spawn a hatchery over here and steal one of these monster eggs and just pop it straight in the cauldron. Oh, yeah, so that cauldron now has one item in it, and all of the food items that you can cook require 2 different items. So I've put 1 food item in that, and now the eggs that are over there are going to hatch into monsters. So they're sort of a multi-use thing in this game, those eggs. They can spawn enemies, or they can be used as a resource. Look, that bat's just got stuck in that block because the block spawned on top of its head. So that's the sort of thing I need to catch, but I won't do it just yet because it's very kind of quality of life type stuff. So the other thing you'll notice is the coins now go towards me. That's because I picked up the magnet relic that my camera is over it, so I'm just going to move myself down to this corner. That magnet relic gives you that kind of coin magnetism effect, and the tiny red coins you can see are from this guy. This is the Oni coin relic, and what this does is every time you smash a jar, you get an extra coin for every red room you've drafted. So it creates like an incentive to add in the dangerous rooms because you're getting more coins for them. So that's kind of the thinking that's going behind the relics. Those relics go away at the end of your run. So at the moment, this is a lucky key ring. So it gives you a higher chance to get keys out of vases, which doesn't matter at the moment because I've got like 50 keys as a debug, but you'll start off with like 5 initially. The cursed coin, the coin magnet, and this bonsai tree allows the vases to spawn in green rooms. So normally the green rooms don't give you vases, only the grey rooms give you vases. So what I'm trying to create is this big list of relics that give you like an incrementally more valuable run the longer you survive in it. So if you die during a run, like you run out of hearts or you fall out of the level, you'll go back to the castle, you'll lose all your coins, you'll lose your relics. And eventually I'll have an upgrade that means you can keep 10% of your coins after you die, you can keep certain things. But the idea is that so that it's better to do one long run than lots of little runs, I'm going to make it so that collecting lots of relics and using them cleverly is going to give you exponentially better rewards. So if you get through a run and you've got 10 relics, you're going to just be like cranking out loads more coins than if you were just like doing lots of little runs, because the relics just really boost how much you get. That's kind of like the long-term goal for how the economy of this is going to scale. Just having a look in the chat. Hi, Riff. So the way that the rooms work is currently there is a deck of rooms, and when you go to a room transition, it is literally like picking the top 3 things from a deck of cards. I did initially have it so you could only pick rooms that fit the slot. So if you had a room above, you couldn't build a tool room that went into that room. But I actually find that allowing the rooms to sort of build over each other and break the previous room was quite fun, because you might have like a room above you where there are a bunch of jars, and you build a room into it and take the floor out, and then all the jars fall down and you get the treasure. So that kind of created a weird little rule breaking thing that felt good to play with. But yeah, there's a deck of rooms, and there's green rooms which are generally going to have stuff that's beneficial in, but you don't get an immediate use out of it. So it's things like ingredients and tools and stuff like that you don't get immediate use out of it. The grey rooms are very much your Dungeons and Dragons. You just get treasure in them. They're eventually going to have traps in. What's that sound? Is that coming from one of my audio files? I just had a piece of a thing that was just beep 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 in my music folder. Yeah, the grey rooms just have treasure pots in at the moment, and generally speaking, they are the ones that are more likely to provide you a way to climb back up. Because they're like multi-tiered, and then the red rooms have stuff that can kill you in, but occasionally resources. So we just got this egg and put it in the cauldron. I'm going to try and finish a recipe, because that is kind of part of the, I guess, the short-term loop of this game. And we've just got the lighter, which is going to help us with that as well, because normally when you light torches, they go out. But if you've got the lighter, they stay lit. There's like a magical lighter. But it looks like yeah, the campfire is up there, and I can't get to it now. Unless, yeah, I've got no way of getting back up to that campfire, so I think I'm a bit screwed. Oh no, hang on. Just go past him. So I need to get a torch up to here, and that will allow me to light the cauldron. So it's kind of like, it's becoming very puzzle platformery, but the puzzliness comes out of the sort of procedural element, really. Okay, so I've lit that. That's already got an egg in. And then we're going to put a mushroom in there. This doesn't quite work because I need to sort of jump over the cauldron and drop it in, which isn't ideal. So I'm probably going to change that eventually. There we go. And then we get an omelette, which doesn't have... The bat killed me right at the end. So one of the loops within this game is going to be, because you work for this this sorcerer in his castle, is you'll be bringing him food back. And I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work yet, but I like the idea that he doesn't like receiving the same dish more than once in a row. So it will be designed so you can probably ignore that and not bring food back, but you'll get bonuses for bringing food back and not bringing back the same food each time. But generally your goal will just be to see how much kind of gold you can pick up during a run. And then eventually the gold will be used to add extra rooms to your deck. So at the moment, if I expend all of the rooms in the deck by just running through, and bear in mind, you won't normally be able to do this because, kind of like the blueprints, you're using keys as a resource. In the blueprints, you can open most doors without a key, and then you need a key for certain doors. I've made it in this so you need a key for every door, just because I think it works better with the type of game it is. Even when you run out of keys, you can still do a fair bit. Yeah, so when I get to the point where I'm at the bottom of the deck, it starts shuffling in these rooms called Void that are just a black room. And they have nothing in, or they might occasionally have one block in or something like that. I think what's happening there is I allowed them to spawn these like I allowed them to spawn these like individual bricks occasionally, but I think there's some other code that deletes bricks if they're kind of hanging on their own like that. So but yeah, this has kind of come together quite quickly, and I didn't really know what I was doing when I started out. I just thought, I want to be making a game. I haven't got a project on at the moment, so I'll start making a platformer. And I had a loose idea of the kind of world I wanted to make, so I started with that, and then I started messing around with the idea of the the kind of blueprints room drafting thing combined with a sort of Spelunky type platformer. And then I've just been, since then, I guess I would say each week I pick a focus and I say, right, this area of the game needs to be more like this, and then I just focus in on that. So I had last week, I focused in on adding peril to the game and making these red rooms have some danger in them. And then the last couple of days I've been focusing on making the green rooms have something beneficial in them, which has mostly been food. It will be other stuff later on. I really want to kind of have a bit of a fairy tale feel to these green rooms, so I'm thinking of things like fairies and gnomes and stuff like that. The flavour of fantasy in this game isn't like Tolkien. It's not dwarves and orcs. It's much more along the lines of like Rumpelstiltskin and stuff like that. So I'm playing around with that, and like, I don't know, the movie Labyrinth, things like that, I guess is where I'm thinking with that. And then yeah, I got literally this week I added in the teleporter. So if I go back to the base with those 11 coins now, they'll be saved in the bank, and then when I go on a run I now have 0 coins, and then when I go back I have 11 coins. I'll probably add a kind of piggy bank icon for this screen so it's a bit more obvious that those are saved coins, and I don't really need to print the lives in this screen either. But the idea is the castle will eventually have like shops and stuff in it where you unlock new rooms, unlock new relics, all of that kind of stuff. And I do have a bunch of ideas about the story, although I'm not gonna go into those now because I'm sort of planning a video on it. So yeah, and at the moment, the only mobs that I've got in the game that are really like a creature are those bats, those egg bats in the hatchery. And I just added the goat that spawns in the chasm. And I'm just going to spend the next hour and a bit trying to make that goat work. Because at the moment, he's a very misbehaved goat. So one of the things I need to do for debug is go to my init. This is where my deck of my regular kind of deck of rooms is fed into the game. So I'm gonna add these are my grey, green and red rooms. Eventually the game is going to have blue rooms, which are like high-tech rooms that you add with coins, and that will be what kind of changes the run over time. I don't want to go too much down the route of like, oh, you start with more health, oh, you start with more keys. I will do a bit of that, but really this kind of deck builder, this room drafting deck builder is about, you know, gradually changing the player experience over time by feeding them different rooms, and then those rooms interact in new ways. So for example, at the moment, it's very hard to do the cooking. You have to get a torch by chopping down a branch from a tree. You have to light a torch at the campfire in one room, and then you have to take the torch to the cauldron in another room. And that's quite a lot of work. You have to know how to do it, and you have to draft the rooms in a sensible layout. So eventually I'll add a blue room, which is like a cookery room that makes all of that easier in some way. But that's the general idea. I put a situation in the game where the player has to combine things in a particular way, build things in a particular way. I make that reasonably difficult, and then the game will be upgraded by adding in quicker ways to do those things as we go on. So it's kind of like having automations in a farming game, I guess. So I'm going to add some more rooms to the list that are copies. So because we're making the goat, and I'm going to need to see the goat a lot, I'm going to add like, I don't know, 5 chasms into the deck. So when I run the game now, instead of having one of each room, which it does at the moment, it's going to have loads of extra chasms so we can spawn the goat in its kind of natural habitat. I'm also going to go into the test level and just put the goat down here because that's going to make my life easier. So I'll put a goat in there. I need to put him on the right level. He should be on the same layer as the player. But at the moment he's floating. Yeah, so what the stuff the player will do with the deck is basically just adding blue rooms to it. And there might be some permanent upgrades to certain rooms, like you might be able to make it so that a particular room always spawns with you know, a particular room always spawns with a new object in it. So, oh, you've upgraded this room and now it always has 2 keys in it instead of 1. That kind of thing, I think might be an element. I just got some weird stuff with my screen shake, so I just need to fix that as well. It won't only take a second. I think my GUI setup is where I control the camera staff. I have some sort of screen shake code that I don't know where it is. But luckily we have a find all here. Here we go. I changed some stuff in the I changed some stuff in my camera code yesterday, and I'm still kind of catching the bad tail end of that. Okay, so I've got a really cheap screen shake effect where instead of moving the camera laterally, I zoom it in and out. So at the moment, when you that's still too extreme. So the only behavior the goat really has is when you pick it up, it sets a timer and then it tries to like jump out of your hands after a little while. And that could be a few seconds or it could be straight away. It just makes it feel more goat-like. So it does a little screen shake and it jumps out of your hands. And then what we really want is for the goat basically needs to behave like this object, which is an item. So in the game I call an item is basically anything that you can pick up. And treasure is different from that. So treasure is keys and coins, and treasure just is like picks up when you run over it. So an item is all of these things. It's an axe, a toadstool, a dead monster. So a monster isn't an item, but a dead monster is an item. And then the goat creates this weird exception because it needs to behave like an item where we can pick it up and run around with it. But when it's not held and it's on the ground, it needs to run around and do its own thing. So that's kind of what I'm going to be... Oh, I just deleted the wrong thing. I'm going to be trying to wrestle with that problem right now. So at the moment, I've broken the goat a little bit. I'm going to revert some stuff. So the goat is just going to behave exactly like a regular object at the moment. So it doesn't do anything different. It is just a thing you can pick up and throw, which is a little bit janky, but to be honest, all of my objects are like that at the moment. And there are some problems there. See, look at that collision. One of the reasons why I'm not spending loads of time fixing that at the moment is I've got a friend who is way better at GML than me, and I'm going to pay him at some point when he's got some free time to go through and help fix some of the collision code on this. Because I could spend ages and ages on that rather than the stuff that adds value to the game. So I pick this guy up, and then he jumps out of my hands, and he kind of falls down. That already feels quite goaty in terms of behavior. He's sort of... He'll let you pick him up. He's kind of reasonably friendly, but then he gets... After a couple of seconds, he's like, I've had enough of this, and then he jumps out of your hands. But that jump is a little bit extreme, so let's see what's going on there. So I think one of the things that's happening is it's got a vertical speed and I'm minusing it rather than setting it to a minus. And that means if you're jumping up in the air, I think there's like an additive thing happening where you jump and the speed of your jump. Oh, look, we've got a flying goat. So I need to work out what's going on there. Oh, that's... Yeah, I put that in the wrong thing. That should be vspeed equals -2. So what's happening here is I've got alarm 0 is the alarm that triggers to make him jump out of your hand. And this happens constantly. But if he's in your hand when this goes off, he'll try and jump out. And if he's not in your hand and he's just walking around, he'll do a meh if he's close enough to you. So I check if the player is close, and he makes a noise if the player is close. And that means that, because I don't have directional sound set up in this, it just means that he'll bleat only if he's nearby and not if he's on the other side of the level. And then alarm 1 is a hop along alarm, which is supposed to basically make him hop around on the ground when he's not being held. So that is what I'm trying to implement today, really. And then after I've done that, I'm very annoyed. I might not be the goat. I might not be the goat game maker, but I am a goat maker, and that's all you can hope to be in this world. Oh yeah, the trees have this nice occlusion thing where you can hide in them with your berry as well. No one can find me up here. I've got my berry. I don't know how well they show up because it's very dark, but this background, I kind of like how it looks like. You know, you get those tapestries, those like old granny tapestries. They're like woven pictures of like a pastoral scene from the 1700s. It looks a bit like one of those, and I kind of like that vibe. Okay, so I fixed the problem where the goat is flying. I fixed the problem where when the goat jumps out of your hands, he sort of flies really high up in the air. He sort of still does that. Or she, actually. She's got an udder, so I'm gonna call her she. I think it should bounce a bit more when it goes out of your hand. So let's make its v-speed -6. Always better to change it by a large amount first and then tune down from that. I mean, timesing it by 3 isn't really a large amount, so that's better. That looks like he's jumping out of your hand. And actually, I can do a -3, -4. Let's do an IRAND, actually. Somewhere between -3 and -6. So it feels slightly different each time. That works. That's fine. So alarm 1 is basically meant to represent him taking a step. So one of the things I've already done is the time until the next step is dictated by how placid the goat is. And by placid we mean well fed. So I've already given the goat a variable called items eaten. And the idea is that the goat will hop around eating fruit and mushrooms and root vegetables. And when he's had enough, he will pop out a little milk item. And that means that you can actively carry the goat around and give it items, or you can throw items at the goat and it will eat them. And then you'll get milk and you can use that for other things. And then yeah, I've used the amount of items that are being eaten to determine how quickly it moves around. So if he's hungry, basically, he's going to be hopping around all over the place. And if he's eating quite a lot, he's going to be more sluggish. That's the theory. I haven't implemented it yet. So that's what I'm going to do now. So what I'm doing here is checking for... checking if there are gaps in the terrain. So we are looking at... We're looking to see if there is a gap on the left. Check for a gap to the... Oh no, right, and move left if there is one. Okay, and then this is the opposite. So here we check for a gap to the left and move right if there is one. So we're going to do that, and then if neither of those things is true, we'll just move in a random direction. And maybe eventually we might want him to look for food and go in a deliberate direction based on the food. But what I want to do is get it feeling like he's alive and doing something first. And then I can fine tune that to make it feel more like he's actively seeking something out. Because, yeah, the more kind of abstract and cartoony your game is, the more people will expect the behavior to be like not a simulation, but a kind of cartoon logic. And I know that's not always true. I know that's not true of like Dwarf Fortress or something, but I'd like to think I'm not trying to make Dwarf Fortress, but I think maybe I might end up there in 6 months' time if I'm not careful. And then because we want to hop, I'm going to set the v-speed to -1 on these as well. Actually, I'll make a variable here. Hop height. So I can change it all in one go. And then I can set his v-speed to... And then var hop distance equals 1 or 3. And then we'll do that with this as well. And that just means, so these yellow color-coded things are temporary variables that only exist in this script. So if you're watching and you don't know GML, the blue ones are local variables that belong to the goat. The yellow ones are script-specific variables that only exist here. So because I'm changing the how far the hop goes vertically and horizontally a lot, I've set it up so I can just change them here and it will change it all the way through rather than having to click through every time. So we check for a gap either way, and then if there's no gaps, move either direction. Okay. And that should be v-speed. These vars control the hop range. This var controls the hop frequency. There we go. And I try and comment things based on the intended behavior at the top of each section as I go along. But one of the things I like about doing streams like this is it encourages me to comment my code better, because as I'm explaining it, I tend to write it down. Okay, so in this one, in this last case, we need to do a choose, and basically we're either doing hop distance or minus hop distance. So we're just choosing whether to go positive or negative on the horizontal axis when we kind of throw them in a random direction. Also, sorry if you've been trying to chat on YouTube and I haven't seen it. I've had my stream on Restream set to Twitch, so I've only been interacting with folks from Twitch. So I will see your YouTube comments come in a minute if you're chatting on there. Why not just name the variable hop frequency? The reason is because it's a multiplier on this calculation. So if I call it hop frequency, then I'm going to confuse myself, because I'll think it means a particular thing. When I come back to it later, I'll think 3 is like once every 3 seconds. It's not set up that way. That's a good question though, Aki. I think that's the sort of engineering thing that I might do later on as a quality of life thing, but at the moment I'm still working out how to execute this thing. So, and I can't really remember how this calculation works. So 10 is frames. This is how many frames until the next hop. So we do 10, and then we do 10 times the amount of items the goat has eaten times whatever this number is. And I think part of the idea here is, if the goat is on an edge, we can sort of shorten this multiplier so it looks like he's kind of hurrying. So it would, when he's kind of walking around and he's not on an edge and he's just in a safe area, then he'll sort of move slower. And then when he's on an edge, he'll sort of look like he's panicking to get away from the edge. I'm not sure that that will work, but we'll see. And yeah, I am not a code wizard. All of this is just me trying to get to get to the gameplay I want. So if I'm doing anything in a way that is heinously wrong, then don't get mad at me, because this stream does not exist to educate people on good coding practice. We're only goat wizards. I will link. Yeah, maybe I'll link the Twitch channel. To be honest, the Twitch thing, the multi-streaming thing, I'm just seeing what happens organically on that platform when I multi-stream. So I can add a link, but every time I add a link, basically, peek behind the curtain. It's bad business practice on platforms to have more than one link if you're trying to raise money or something. So one of the reasons why so many of my videos only have a link to Patreon is for that. If I'm playing someone else's game, I try and link to the game if it's public, because that's just the decent thing to do. But if I start putting every link to every platform I'm on every video, then it might cause problems with focus. Goat. Oh, that should be a random range. Maybe, yeah, Twitch is suppressed on Google, maybe. I don't know. Look at him go! Look at him go, he's alive! He's goating! And he's moving around a lot because he's hungry. And I have no way to test. So at the moment we've got a behavior where the frequency of steps is dictated by how hungry the goat is. Yet that was a bug. You can see there's a general bug with everything that's classified an item, where if it kind of goes into if it goes into a solid and gets stuck there, the kind of compensatory stuff I've put in place to remove it sometimes glitches out and it moves like way across the screen. And what's happening there is it's like getting wedged into the floor and conveyor belting along and then popping up. So I will get that fixed, but like I said, I've got a friend who is much better at GameMaker than me, and when he's got some time, I'm going to hire him to fix some of the really broken stuff in this game, because he'll do a better job of cleaning that up and making it future-proof, whereas with me, it is very much just like everything in this is like held together with plasticine and rubber bands at the back end. So I would, if I can give someone a day's wages to make my game infinitely better and easier to work with, I'd rather do that than spend a long time fiddling around with these kinds of things. Okay, so when he's jumping out of my hand, he's not doing proper kind of gravity behavior, and I think I know where that is. And some of that is because I'm not checking for ground when I send him up in the air. But he's doing some galloping. And the kind of basic noise that objects make when they touch walls is kind of a little bit grating, so I might have to think about how to fix that. But at the moment he's kind of flying down to the ground after I throw him, which is very odd. But I think that is because basically we need all of the stuff in this hop code to only trigger when he's on the ground. So we'll say this is checking for all of my. So again, this is a heinous crime that people are gonna hate me for, but none of the I'm not using tile maps in this. All of the blocks are game objects, which I know is really, really inefficient, but I'm just gonna hope and pray that it carries on working, because I've got a lot of code in those blocks that needs to run to make certain things happen, because a lot of the blocks are not just blocks, they're doing stuff like spreading or whatever. So again, you should never look at any of my dev practices as a good way of doing things. They're a good way of doing things for me in order to prototype gameplay quickly. But my way of thinking is always that if I get to a point where I think a game is really good and it's technically shoddy, then I will hire someone else to refactor it and fix it in a bunch of ways. Okay, so the goat is only going to hop about if it's on the ground and if the v-speed is 0. So Greater or equals to 0. No. Yeah, let's go for 0. So it should... Basically, it's only going to do this stuff if it's grounded and connected to the ground, because it can't jump when it's in the air. That's the idea. So if I now pick him up and let him jump out of my hands, he falls down properly. Because the hop code is not interrupting him falling out of the sky now. And that's a goat spawning in its natural habitat, which is on the edge of a chasm. And then I can just throw him down. Yeah, the thing is, because it's a run-based game, like at the moment, I'm debugging this with 50 keys. But the player is never going to get like more than 20 keys, in theory. I mean, I don't know how that will go as the game develops, but the keys will be a limited resource. So the level is always going to be like, you are building a small metroidvania, and you're actually incentivized not to build it too big, because you need to be able to get back to that start position to warp out of the level. And that's kind of the biggest challenge, really, is how do you get back to the start? And that all of this is subject to change. It's a very experimental game. I'm not working with a very clear model of like a game this is based on. It's sort of a weird mix of Blueprints meets Spelunky meets an ancient adventure game. One of the things I do need to do is there's that collision sound for items when they hit against things, and I really need to look for that, because it is really, really grating after a while. So I'm going to fix that now. Right. Just putting that in place so that some of these sound effects aren't triggering when the character is off the screen. So... Right, now we need a way for the goat to eat items. And the first thing is I don't want him to be able to eat an item every frame. So I'm going to create another alarm, which is like sort of chewing, basically. When this alarm goes off, the goat will attempt to eat whatever is in front of it. I don't think I've got a chomp sound for this yet. We now need a way for the goat to eat items. Yeah, exactly. And... So again, I'm slowing this down based on how many items the goat has eaten. So when he's less hungry, he's going to eat less frequently. It's a pretty good goat. He doesn't have an animation yet. I'm very proud of the eyes. Like, I don't consider myself a pixel art. The way I've developed the pixel art in this game, I don't consider myself a pixel art. I don't consider myself a pixel artist. The way I've developed the pixel art in this game is when I started off, I just put shapes and colors in and made them very, very simple. And then I would just come back and iterate on them and go, well, maybe this shape could be a bit more like this, and like just gradually tweak them over time, and then just develop my own rules about how things like outlines and shading work. So I'm not doing kind of purist stuff to do with palette control and anything like that, but I have some rules and I stick to them. And I'm very proud of how the eyes turned out, because they do read as goat's eyes, but it's just a little diagonal line. They do have weird eyes, yeah. Love a good goat. And I will add variations on this. I was thinking when the goat goes in the red room and breathes in the spores. Actually, this was one my partner suggested. We could have like a manic cordyceps type goat where he gets transformed by the red room and kind of becomes an evil goat. And I liked that idea. That was one of my a lot of the time my partner will sit with me and brainstorm stuff, and generally comes up with pretty good ideas, but sometimes I have to go, stop giving me ideas. I'm trying to implement the ideas I have and not get any more, which I'm sure is just a general thing that we all have to deal with. It's like, when do you stop thinking about new stuff and just focus on what you've got? But yeah, I just kind of iterate on them. I come back to them and do little tweaks, I think. And you know, it's that make it, and then later you can make it good, that kind of thing. Just make it exist to start off with. That's better. That's a better udder. Look at that. Utterly improved. Where was I? Oh, so we need to program the goat. Okay, so it needs to eat items. Now, at the moment, I don't have a quick way of telling if an item is edible. And that's kind of funny, because it's funny for a goat to eat things that are inedible, but I would rather add that in later on. At the moment, the purpose of the goat eating is in order for it to gradually generate milk. So although I might eventually want it to be able to eat random things and get sick, that's like a whole other thing. So what I'm going to do is, in my parent item, I'm going to create a new variable, a new boolean, to just check if items are food. Is food. So that will be default no, and then I just need to go through these other objects. So I need to rearrange this actually, because some of these things I've changed conceptually. So I've got all these consumables that are not yet actually consumable by the player. There we go. So all of these things, I just need to go through and set that flag. No, okay, so the monster egg is not food. But I also don't want the... Maybe I should have a flag called is goat food, because I only want the goat to eat the certain things that are like vegetable things. Because it's not going to like eat a steak. It might eat an omelette. And that would be funny, because an omelette is very hard to prepare in this game. It actually takes quite a lot of effort to make an omelette. So if you leave an omelette on the floor and a goat can eat it, that to me is very funny. I don't know if it's good, but it's funny. And I think you have to think about your game's capacity for producing epic fails. And I think leaving a very valuable food item on the floor next to a goat is going to be like an epic fail, a funny one for most people. Is goat food. There we go. That's a bit specialist, but I don't intend to add loads of different mobs, so I don't mind doing it that way. Because otherwise I have to sort of make all of these flags to say, is it a vegetable? And I think it would be better to just judge each item separately on whether a goat would eat it. So I think there's stuff that has meat in that a goat would eat, but a goat wouldn't just eat like a random corpse or a piece of steak. But if you had like a smoothie that had some meat in it, then maybe. So the goat will eat the ice cream. I guess the goat's not going to eat its own milk. I think I draw the line there. I think the goat would eat an omelette. And it's definitely going to eat the root vegetables. because that will be like the basic thing that exists in the environment for you to feed to it. And the toadstool, yeah, I guess. Is a goat food. I really hope that a goat is not goat food. It's going to eat toadstools and it will eat the Scotch egg. This is what happens when you let British people make a game with cooking in. I just thought it would be funny. Like I don't think anywhere else in the world eats these. So people are going to be like, what the hell is that? And that's fine. Anything to make my games more quaint and alienating. So toadstool, Scotch egg, root. It's called a root. It looks like a carrot, but I don't really want it to be a carrot. I want it to be like a... I maybe I will randomize the sprite, so sometimes it's a turnip, sometimes it's something else. Like the idea that sometimes the carrots will be a screaming mandrake and you pull them out and they run away from you. That would be good. And the monster egg is not a goat food because the monster egg is supposed to be like a leathery egg from Alien or something, even though you can cook with it and it turns into an omelette or a scotched egg. But SpongeBob logic aside, Aki, you are totally right that in good practice it would be better to have individual booleans, but I think one of the principles I'm going to be following this is if you think of Minecraft, when they introduce a new food stuff or a new mob or something, they're very, very selective about what they add, and they have a bunch of design rules so that when they add a new animal, it has to have a different behavior from other animals, it has to have a different thing it can produce, all of these things. And that stops the game becoming bloated, and it also helps from a gameplay point of view because you learn the behavior of the animals and what you get out of them, what you need to do with them and stuff like that. And for that reason, I don't see myself introducing that many mobs into this game because I'm following the same sort of principle of they do something, they're there for a particular reason. There shouldn't be multiple animals that, but there shouldn't be multiple animals that like follow the same behavior, right? So I'm quite happy to just like have 5 animals and they're all very bespoke because that will lead to a more kind of interesting experience, I think. So yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy to have is this goat food as a thing because otherwise I have to make, if I was following like world logic, right, I would say is this food and is it a plant? And I would say, okay, the goat only eats things that are food and also plants. But that doesn't help me to factor in the situations like, okay, you put an omelette down and the goat eats the omelette even though it normally only eats plants in the wild, right? So it's just a lot easier for me to shorthand that into is it goat food or not, I think. So, is it goat food? We need to check, is it goat food? We also need to check if it's rooted because that is the variable I apply to roots to see if they're in the ground. So maybe it shouldn't be able to pull stuff out of the ground itself. And I also need to check if it's held because if it's held, then it means that the player is holding it. And we don't actually have that on here, but that's because it's not set when you initialize it. It's set when you... It's set when the player picks something up. So that may cause some problems, but maybe all I need to do is... I think I don't have is held set on a knit, so I need to actually probably put that in here. Held. Nothing is held at the start when it spawned. I just check I haven't broken anything with that bit, which shouldn't have done anything, but... You never know. They're going to be very, very difficult to transport, I think, but that's fine if it becomes its own... that's fine if it becomes its own little mini game. But I like that they spawn in the chasm because that's the closest thing I've got to a mountainside. Yeah. Gotcha. I mean, I don't really know how I would introduce a tag system. I mean, these are just all of the variables that you have when the object is initialized. I don't really understand how having a tag varies really. We're talking about the reason we were talking about random foods, Bash, is because I was working out which of the food items the goat should eat when it wanders into them. Because we're making a goat. Okay, so alarm 2 is basically our munch. So every time this alarm goes off, the goat is gonna look for things around it and eat one if it's near enough. And I'm going to make a var here called can munch. And then I'm going to just set a list of kind of conditions where it can't munch. So if it's held, it can't munch. And that means if the player is carrying it round, it currently can't eat anything. I might change that later. It could be quite funny, but... and if it's falling, I think it shouldn't munch. Although that again, some of these cases could be quite funny, but we'll see. And then we'll also make the milk here. So if, and then at the end of this, actually at the end of this chain, if items, it has a variable called items eaten, and if that's 3. Yeah, it would be really good if one of the things I'd like the goat to do as well is smash jars. So, because at the moment breaking jars is quite tedious, and I've added a relic in where you can run into them. You get like a set of horns and you can run through them and smash them. It would be really good if the goat could also just smash jars and you could go and throw the goat into a room and have it smash all the jars for you. So I will probably add that in before the end of this session if this works as well. Okay, so we're checking if the goat can munch anything based on other factors. And then at the end of this code... I'm just putting this at the top so it's easier to change later on. Then we set items eaten to 0. And we create the milk. I need this bit at the moment at the bottom because I always forget what's there. And then I need to just quickly save that in a variable so that I can make it have some speed. So I can make it fly up in the air when it comes out. Everyone knows that when a goat gives you milk, the milk goes straight into a bottle and flies up in the air because video games. Okay, so we've got the beginning and end of our logic chain. If the goat is full, it makes milk and goes back to being hungry. Now there should probably be some downtime after that, but that's kind of an advanced feature. It doesn't help with what I'm trying to achieve right at this moment. So... Oh no, actually I can achieve that very, very easily. So let me do this. bar base delay equals 10. And then we'll use that number here. And then when the goat makes milk, we will add that to, like, I don't know, just make it bigger. Okay. So we're checking if there is an item touching the goat, and then we're going to go through all of the kind of checks to see if that's something that the goat can eat. And one of the things I need to check is on the goat sprite, because the measuring point will be from here. So I really want to check the area around the goat's head. So I'm going to take the XY position here, and I'm going to check, I don't know, like 6 pixels right and 6 pixels down, so that we're actually checking where the goat's mouth is colliding rather than the middle of the goat. And in order to do that, I need to check the X scale of the goat, because when it's facing leftwards, it flips. So that's not too difficult to do. I can do that. Might as well bake that in now. So equals X scale times 6 image X scale, and then just add those on to the X and Y coordinates. So I'm checking if this location has one of these in it, and that's going to check for every single item. And that does mean I could actually put the jar smashing stuff in here. So I'm going to call it mouth item, because that will help me remember what it is. Mouth item equals instance place. So we do exactly the same thing. And all of that is just to... So before we try and save the object, the instance, into a variable, we check that one exists, otherwise it will throw a fit. So then we've got if object ID... object index. So if I check the object index of the mouth item and I find it is a jar, then I will destroy it. And then yeah, I might make it punt the player. I like that. Hi, kitten. Okay, and then we're going to check if the mouth item dot is goat food is true. Oh, I don't need this because I've already got that. So we're checking if goat food is true, and if goat food is true, then we're going to destroy it and increment the number of items that the goat has eaten. Okay. And I need to check if it's not held. So the idea is that the goat won't eat something out of your hand, which maybe is unrealistic, but it could be very irritating if you're like carrying an item and you run past the goat and it eats. I mean, it could also be very funny. So these are the sorts of things I will play around with and see what feels right. But okay, that should give us the behavior we want, and it's not a lot of code. So I mean, thank you for joining, especially if it's your first time, because this predominantly isn't a me doing game dev channel. It's like I mostly give other people design advice and design feedback. And then because I was working on my own game and people seem to enjoy watching this kind of thing, I did this as well. This is not me saying, here's how to code. But if this works, I'll be very happy, because that is a very short amount of code for behavior. We got a lot of twitchers. Or the twitchers be twitching. So he's still making quite an annoying sound, but we'll just go over here. What are you doing? Why don't you just eat? Why don't you have one of these? You gonna eat it? Eat! Eat your root! Oh, you know what? I've done a really silly thing. I haven't set our munch alarm when the goat is created. There we go. He wasn't munching, because it's supposed to be a loop. So the first time it triggers, it needs to trigger in the create event, and otherwise it won't start. Hey buddy, you want some fruit? Got any grapes? Yeah, he ate it. He slowed down a bit. He ate it. What are you doing? Why are you jumping? Why are you jumping so much? It really doesn't take much to make a goat feel like a goat. Right, we need a good sound. I might just record it myself. The munch. We need a munch sound effect. Right. How many foods does it need? How many foods must a goat wolf down before I get some milk? Eat your mushrooms. Eat. So one of the reasons I went for goats, well, there's actually a couple of reasons. One of the reasons I started off with a goat was because they're funny. The other was I wanted to be able to send this to the guy that made that mountaineering game that I cited in my level design lecture and say, look, I took your advice, I put a goat in my game. And the other one was like the fairy tale reference with like, well, it's not fairy tale, is it? But the Billy Goat's Gruff. Because I'm trying to go down that kind of European folktale route with the fantasy of this, and I felt like goats are quite integral there. And because it would just be a naughty little guy that I knew would be a pain in the butt in the game. Okay, items eaten. Let me just check, because how many did I set? Food for milk is 3. I definitely fed that guy 3 of these. And I'm only incrementing items eaten there. Just check that I'm... Ah, okay. Setting it to 0 in one of the other things, even though it's totally irrelevant for it to be... Okay, fixed. And I think what I might do is I might start them on 1, so they're a little bit less manic when they spawn. And then you only initially have to feed them 2 items to get a milk. And then after that, it will reset to 0, so they'll need 3 items for the second milk. And that creates a little kind of economic quirk that I think could be good. I am going to fix that sound effect thing. I've got the sound turned down quite low to try and spare you guys from any annoying sound effects, but I'm going to just find that bup sound, which is the little ba-dup when things hit each other. So we're gonna have a new is alive boolean. Most things are not alive, but a goat, which is actually under characters, even though it's an object, or even though it's an item, is going to be set as alive. And that will mean that when it's hitting other surfaces, it won't make that sound. There we go. I love a Bible goat stack. Still doing I think I have some very, very hacky code around getting items to make a whoosh sound when you throw them, and that is being silly here. So let me just find that as well. I'll just comment that out for now and just to see what happens. Because the whoosh should really happen from the player input of throwing an object rather than an object moving. But look. Come with me to the forest, young goat. It's where you belong. Why will you not eat your berry? Or your root? It's very placid. It's very placid when he's eaten 2 things. I got a milk. He's sped up now. I quite like that because so he speeds up after, or she speeds up after she's made the milk. And that is because that is based on how hungry she is. And when she's made a milk, she goes back to being fully hungry. But it also makes her look really happy about having produced a milk. Yeah, I might add them their own clopping sound, but the sound that it was doing was not intended for that and was a bit harsh. There you go. Slows down after she had something to eat. And then I go and throw an axe at her, and it doesn't do anything. I will make them killable, but they'll probably just go poof upside down to keep things PG. Not that I'm concerned about that, but it's just tonal stuff. Let's see if we can get you to break some jars. Do you break jars when you're near them? Yeah, they do. So the goat is gonna... Oh. So I think we've destroyed a jar. Line 22 of that goat alarm to... Hang on. I hate this stuff. It's like I have to check if an instance exists. It's like, well, if it doesn't exist, just don't do the thing. we go. Yeah, I hate null checking. The thing is that GameMaker specifically is very set up in a kind of idiot-proof way. Like it has these kind of soft-typed variables where you can put any type of variable into any container and stuff like that. So that's the kind of thing that to me indicates that it should just handle certain things, but it doesn't. And it's very inconsistent sometimes in terms of how noob-friendly it is. Certain things about it are really noob-friendly. Okay, so goat works for getting milk. Now we're going to take goat and put goat down there. Goat is fast now because goat has made milk and goat is hungry. Goat! You're stuck. So yeah, the goat spawns in the chasm at the moment, and there's a very small chance that you'll get 2 of them, but usually there'll only be 1. So I might have stuff later on where you can like you can get a second goat or whatever, but at the moment it's going to be like a kind of special thing of the goat, you know. And most of the stuff in the game is kind of like that currently. So there's only 1 campfire, there's only 1 cauldron, and it sort of means that you really have to... I mean, it's where the gameplay comes from, because when you spatially arrange the level, you have to go back to get particular things. So at the moment, this is going to make no sense, by the way, and I'm going to make ice cream now, but I'm going to make it in a boiling cauldron. And I know that that makes no sense. And I know that later on I'll probably need to replace that with some kind of ice making thing that you put ice cream ingredients in at the moment. But at the moment, because the cauldron is how you make food, you can make ice cream in it. So we're just going to test if that works, because I haven't had milk in my game before. I wasn't able to make ice cream, but now we've got milk. We can put a milk and a berry in there. And we got an ice cream! Whee! Ice cream with a very strange registration point that hovers in the air. And then I'm going to go and say, hey goat, do you want to eat this ice cream? The circle of life. Amazing. The goat ate the ice cream. So I sort of, it's kind of gradually nudging in the direction of being a cozy game because of the cooking, right? And I kind of like that. Someone in our Discord the other day used the phrase cozy horror, and I hadn't associated that with this game yet. And I think that is actually spot on, because I just did all of that lovely stuff hanging out with my goat, making some ice cream. And yet if I build this room, we have horrific biological psychedelia coming in with these very dubious looking spore spreading things that make you choke to death. And these eggy things that spawn horrible little eyeless monsters that bite you. I quite like that combination of things. That's very much my jam. The milk doesn't smash at the moment if you throw it, and I think that would be too harsh. So maybe I'll put it in like a metal container so it's more obvious that it doesn't smash. But yeah, that's not important at this stage. And yeah, another one of the cozy horror elements is eventually you're gonna... So at the moment, when I end my run and teleport back, it doesn't take food with me. But eventually I'll be able to take a food item back to the wizard, and then he'll basically yell at me and be like, I hate ice cream, what's wrong with you? And then you'll be sad. Just like in Hades. You know, when you go back to Hades and you're like, hey, I made you a Scotch egg. Okay. So the goat breaks items for us. I'm looking at the way it moves at the moment, and I think there's a way I can do an animation for this that is incredibly cheap. I think I can make a 2-frame animation with its like legs up, legs down. And whenever it's not exactly on the floor, whenever it's moving, basically, actually, whenever its horizontal speed is not 0, put the legs up, and that will kind of create this kind of jumping, bounding lamb type movement, like a bah, bah. So I'm gonna try and add that now because I don't think it will take very long. I'm not going to be doing loads and loads of pixel art. I'll just rough it in first and then see how we go. I will add jiggle physics to the others, yeah. Incorporate an entirely yeah, goats versus tyranids. That's a very good description. So what I really want is so that leg and that leg are 2x4. So I will use that as a starting point. I'll do this on another layer so it's easier. One of the things I love about the sprite editor in GameMaker is that you can use layers and edit the layers later, and they still just sort of work in the game engine as a flat image, and that kind of makes it easier to work in a non-destructive way, I guess. So that leg has been replaced. That leg has been replaced. Bear. And we know that's not really how a goat moves. But we just want it to be fun and appealing. I am going to put the other jiggle physics in because you cursed my mind with that thought, and now you have to live with the consequences. The udders are the only other thing that moves when it jumps. And just put a little shadow of the other leg there. You can tell I'm not opening any sort of farmyard anatomy books and being like, what do goats actually do? Because I'm not a realism bro. I sort of drew some of that on the layer I didn't mean to touch, but that's fine. Doesn't matter too much. Why is that so funny? Okay, and move the tail. Tail goes boop, 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 boop. Maybe see if we can move the whole head like that as well. Let's see if that works. Might have to do a bit more work up here to make that work, but won't take long. We'll get it looking passable, and then again, like every piece of art in this game, I just come back to it so often and refresh it, and I don't mind doing that. It's one of the fun tasks. So if I do things in a slightly rushed way the first time round, like I don't mind coming back to them. Just sort of do it quickly, get it into the game, get it kind of loosely providing the vibe that the game needs to have, you know, in terms of this, I guess, cute but occasionally gross and scary overall vibe of the game, which is what we're going for, I guess. He's a bit pillow shaded on her back, but okay, so frame 0 is standing still and frame 1 is up in the air. Actually, maybe we do a little Just as many little detail changes as possible, just to give it a lot of character. It's really focusing on that jump. Okay. And then I'll probably put this in the step event. So if... I'm not adding extra jiggle. Right, this might not work. I can see people in the chat say, like, providing a more nuanced model of how the animation should work, but I'm just going to do the most simple version of it first and then iterate from there. Why do you do that when you get stuck in the corner? Just my collision code in general being really bad. I think one of the things that might help the goat in general, in terms of its overall sort of what's going on, if I make its collision box narrower, it might be a bit better at behaving in terms of moving around the environment and stuff. See, that's already behaving better. And then if I put the chasm down, it doesn't get as close to the edge. No! Yeah, so that's the rare instance you can get where you get two goats. And basically what's happening is when I create the chasm, I put blocks down for the ledges, and if there aren't enough of them, and like basically I do a random call a bunch of times to work out where the goat should go, and if it can't find a place for whatever reason, it just drops a goat down each side. So you either get one goat in a good place or two goats that may plummet to their doom. And then also, if the goat is jumping up in the air, I also need to set the... Because when it jumps out of your hands, it should do that pose as well. Can it jump? And also, I love how much life you can get out of two or four frames. It's great. Okay. We're going to get some sound effects for this goat. So we need a we need a chomp sound, and we need a chomp, and we need a for when it makes some milk. I'm going to see if I don't know if I can do this with my sound card using the... Let's see what happens if I just do that. Okay. When my sound card is into Streamlabs, I don't know if I can just record at the same time, but let's have a look. Preferences. Recording device. Okay, it's set to loop back at the moment, which is what you use to just record whatever your sound card is generally doing. So I set it to mic. Hello. It's on a weird stereo thing at the moment. How do I change that? This is the pro sound effect workflow. Okay, we're going to make the milk sound effect. Check it out. This is high-tech stuff. It's not as plucky. I'm going to add a little. This is how the pros do it, folks. I think that's a good goat making some milk sound. I'm using it. I'm using that. And what will happen is I will say, oh, that's a joke. And then I will leave it in the project forever. Goat milk. And then we need like a Homer Simpson chomp noise for the... for when they go eat something. That's pretty good as well. I think I might have a future in this. Just gonna... Yeah. I mean, part of the reason why I do this kind of stuff, like when I do stuff like this, it is to just sort of get people... I sort of hope that if I show people me just making stuff in a really silly way, then they might be more inclined to do it that way as well. Which is just get it done. Goat chomp. Just get it done. Just do anything. Like, that took me less time than it would have done for me to search for those sounds online. And they're probably closer to what I imagined in my head. Because instead of the process being, imagine something in my head, go online, try and find something exactly the same on, like, Free Sound Project. It was, imagine something in my head, replicate that as best I can with my body. And that's quicker. That is quicker. So they might not be great sounds, but they will do what we need them to do for now. Goat chomp. And I love the fact that I can just sort of save them on the desktop, and then when I import them here, they'll move into the right project. Goat milk. It doesn't fully match. Like, if I wanted these to really match the aesthetic of the game, I should put them through some sort of downscaler. I have something like that in FL Studio that makes the sound really bit crushed, but at the moment, I don't care. I lost my characters folder then. I was like, where's it gone? Where have all of my characters gone? Okay. So this is our chomping. It does need a burp. I'm not doing a burp on stream. I think I've already made some horrible sounds on this stream. Do the old slightly randomize the pitch of the sound effect trick. And we need to do that for the milk here as well. Although I don't really need to randomize that sound effect because it's not going to happen so much. But so one of the things I've just clocked looking back at this is that when it eats the last piece of food, it's going to immediately make the milk. And what I want to do instead is take this and put it up here and then turn. So all the stuff that checks for a piece of food and eats it is actually an else. So what this means is these can't happen at the same time, because when this alarm goes off, it will see if it's time to make some milk and it will do the milk then. And if it's not time to make some milk, it will look for something and eat it. And that stops the chain we had before where it eats something and then it can immediately on the same frame make milk. We want to have a small delay. Yeah, hopefully that will make it feel better. Well, the sound of a goat giving milk is... We've established that. I just want a forest. I want something with lots of... The goat loves to shout its milk out. It works alright. I mean, it's a bit gross, but it's fine. It does what it needs to do. I always just try and get a sound effect in for a thing as soon as possible because I just think it's an important part of the gameplay feedback. So I can iterate on all of these things later on. So we've got a goat that sounds like a human when it eats. Maybe we make the sicko goat that can get cordycepsed. Right, we're gonna do the ice cream quest again if I can get it to work. Oh yeah, we've lucked out because we got the camp next to the clearing. So the camp gives me a fire. I light the cauldron in the clearing. Then I can put a berry in the cauldron and some milk in the... What's going on with you? Stop levitating. What's wrong with you? It's because that's what happens when it's fully hungry. It moves too fast to ever be on the ground. Look at the ice cream. The ice cream is moving itself along. It wants to be eaten. The ice cream longs to return to its mother. We can't put the goat in the cauldron yet. We will eventually, because I have a list of items that are just classified as meat. So eventually we'll be able to put the goat in the cauldron. But I think you should have to kill it first. So this is Kitten's fault. We're gonna add killing the goat in now. So the goat will be killable. So we're gonna be able to throw the axe at it or another heavy object and kill it. Of course it will get tried out. So yeah, you can't put the goat in the cauldron when it's alive. But we're gonna make a separate object. And I'm going to copy object dead monster here because it's probably got the most attributes of a dead goat. And then what I need to do... Oh, dear. I think we're going to use that. We're going to use that sprite option. And we're going to go... Oh. Merge all the layers. And... Oh. Cut it out. Turn it upside down. No, I mean, the main character, like, this is kind of what I want the character to be conceptually, but it's not actually necessarily the style that it'll end up in. And again, this is one of those things where, like, the more I come to believe in this project, the more likely I am to get someone else on board. So I might get someone else to, like, redo his animations or whatever further down the line. I'm really not wedded to the idea of, like, I have to do everything myself. And I don't mind paying people to get things done to a better level of quality. But yeah, I mean, the general idea of Lem is that Lem is a golem made of clay. So that's kind of what I'm going with. And maybe upside down doesn't work because of the silhouette of the character, but I will just try and move the head down even lower. Maybe what we need to do actually is there a way I can rotate that so it won't anti-alias all over the place? There we go. Can I do that sort of thing? Sorry, Goat, I need to chop your head off. It looks like one of those medieval pictures of, like, the devil coming in someone's bedroom now. Oh dear. What have we done? Okay, I'm going to flip it back. Oh. This is the price we pay for making this kind of world where every expected interaction exists. So what I did with the egg bat is when it dies, it sort of gets desaturated as well. So just pick a few colors that are colors and just, it helps to just subconsciously tell you that that's a dead one. If it kind of goes a bit grey when it dies. Doesn't have any front legs, but I think that works. Tongue hanging out. You're terrible. You think too hard about this kind of thing, you lot. You're like, oh yeah, what if we can kill the goat? Oh, what if... I don't think that reads quite right, but it'll do for now. Crosses on the eyes. You're terrible. Okay, let's try it. I don't think crosses will read as crosses because I just don't have enough space, but we'll try it. The classic. Awful. But we'll do it. Let's see how it goes. So, object dead goat. Let's see what we've got here in terms of variables. Is it a potion ingredient? Yes. Okay. And I just see what code I've got in the egg bat to make it get killed by stuff. Oh no, that's the dead one. Okay. I'm going to copy this event over to the goat. Hang on, where is that living? Oh yeah, it's its own event. That's fine. Right, so we're gonna check if the other thing is something that can kill the goat. So another moment it's just gonna be monsters or axe, and then we check if the other thing is going fast. This is not well written. Just change that to absolute. So absolute just changes it changes a negative into a positive, so you can just, it's very, very helpful for checking velocities of things. Right. That's better. I could copy that over to the other thing, but I'm not going to do that right now. Okay. Right, so when the goat collides with an item, the egg bat is not an... Okay, so that's not going to work, actually. I'll just put the code in for colliding with the axe at the moment. So if it collides with an axe, then I may as well actually have a specific collision event with the axe for that to work. But there might be more than one thing that we want to throw at it and have it killed by, so I will leave that for now. And then I'll do a separate collision event for the egg bat. And we don't need to spawn a gross particle, because that's something that spawns when the monsters die. And then we'll do a separate thing here for colliding with the bats. So it's not quite as nuanced as when the player collides with the bats. The bats have like a bite that they do every second or so, and that has to be triggering when they collide with the player to make them actually bite you. But I'll make it so that they just die immediately when they touch a bat for now. And then I can nuance that later on. And then, wonder if I've got time to make a sicko goat that happens if the goat breathes in spores. That will be fun. So if the goat goes into a red room and those spawner things breathe their spores onto it, then the goat will become a sicko and run around trying to headbutt you or hurt you or something. That would be a good interaction for this type of game. I mean, it's going to happen very rarely. Oh, there was that collision glitch again. So it got stuck in the rock and then sort of scooted along the screen to another thing. I'm going to fix that another time because it's not a very exciting kind of thing to watch. And also, I've had about 3 or 4 runs at fixing that. It's like these jump through platforms are also very, very buggy, and it's quite possible to get stuck in the wall around them. But I'm going to get some help with that and then come back to it another time. See, these poison clouds, they do hurt you, but they take quite a bit of time to trigger. So generally speaking, the grey rooms give you the main resources you need, but they're sort of boring, and they don't give you the interesting stuff, like goats and axes, which is what we need. What have I done? That's a good idea, Kitten. Yeah, basically, I like the idea that the red rooms will gradually have those kind of qualities where they take over the space if you leave them too long. Because you can... Oh, I haven't actually showcased this in this stream, but you can... I need a fire. Let's go and find a fire. You can burn them as well. They're very, very flammable, which is both helpful and dangerous, because you can end up in the void. So you can go in here and like, oh, my torch, my only torch. Yeah, you can burn the red rooms. So the idea is that they're gonna spread around. They'll have monsters in them. They basically you can try and do a run in this game with no monsters in it, and you can just avoid building red rooms, and it makes your game more into like a Dizzy Egg cutesy adventure game, where the only hazard really is falling down a big hole. So you can just build stuff like this, and you can have like a little, you know, Stardew Valley platformer type run of this game where you just build all this stuff and you avoid building the red stuff. And then when you build the red stuff, it kind of gradually takes over the level. So it's like you've made a cozy level and then it's being invaded by horrible Metroid sort of biological psychedelia stuff that's scary and gross. Oh, I stuck in a tree trunk. I told you those drop through platforms were causing me problems in this game. So yeah, let's that's good. I don't know how I would make it moddable, but yeah, definitely the sort of thing where it's very, very potentially easy for people to add their own stuff in. Not at a technical level, but it would be a game that suits that. So I've got the purple lighter relic. What is a chupacabra though? I mean, I will add a chupacabra to the game eventually, but it's not a cucaracha. That's just a cockroach, isn't it? What does a chupacabra look like? Don't know if you can. The background in this room is really cool. Probably a bit too dark for the stream, but it's like I made these very, very dark because I want to keep the feel of like an old ZX Spectrum game with a black background, but I still wanted the rooms to have some detail. So they've got these very dark backgrounds that sort of fade in as you go over them. So the grey rooms have these sort of post-apocalyptic building vibes. And then the green rooms, some of them look like forests, and some of them look like this, which is like more of like a sort of H.R. Geiger thing covered in moss. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that about the Undertale thing and modding. It does look like a Squirtle, yeah. People keep asking that if they're like, is it a turtle? And I'm like, well, it looks like a Squirtle. I don't know about a turtle. It's the color combination. Yeah, I don't know. I might change the clothes or put a belt buckle on it or something. Maybe make it look. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there will be some close-up images of it in like the cover art and stuff, which will look much more blobby and not like a Squirtle. This is peak video games. Right, we need to have the cauldron register. The cauldron needs to register when it has a dead goat. So we copy this one. The cooking system basically just always takes 2 objects. I thought that would be easier for the player to understand, and it also is a good limitation for me because it means then we don't have like one recipe that has one like 2 things, one that has 3. It's just always 2 objects. So a dead monster just adds a dead monster or a dead goat adds 1 meat to the recipe. And at the moment, if the only recipe that has meat in is meat plus egg makes a Scotch egg. But I might make it so that, if it's 2 meats, you get a meat stew or something. But yeah, that's it. Okay, I want to finish up in the next 20 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do now is try and make a sicko goat so that we have the reason I'm prioritizing that is that it creates a link between a red room and a green room in an interesting way, and that is the design space that I'm always looking to explore because it is the richest sort of seam to dig for this game. Is like, how do I make it so that spawning particular types of rooms next to each other creates some interesting emergent behavior? So I'm going to make an infected goat who is going to be our sicko cordyceps type goat. So I think we're going to go with like black eyes and a sort of pinky red general color. So if the goat gets infected by the red rooms, it will turn into this guy. And I just need to pick a couple of colors out for the shading. And what I'm doing is... maybe that's a bit too extreme. I think maybe that should be a bit more subdued at that top level. It's sort of like, I don't know if you ever played the very first Tomb Raider, where you get the Atlantean aliens. They look a bit like this. That's kind of what I was thinking. Okay, so... very mild spoilers for Tomb Raider 1, a game which you've had 30 years to play. And the theme of the Red Rooms is really kind of supposed to be this kind of biological horror. It's not necessarily like demonic or anything like that in a religious sense. It's much more sort of, yeah, it's sort of bio-horror. So stuff like you get in Metroid, quite a bit of H.R. Geiger, the film Annihilation. If you've seen that film, that's a great film. One of my favorite sort of scary sci-fi films. I'm just pushing the shading over towards blue so that we're not just doing different shades of red. We're getting like a... maybe... because the shading is quite subtle in this so far. I don't go loads and loads of layers deep with it. So I just try and be quite selective with which shades I use, I guess, and what that communicates. Because we've got some mechanical stuff going on with color in this game as well, where green is good and red is bad, which is maybe not good from an accessibility point of view, because that's like the worst color blindness thing. But I also just need to make sure that the different versions of things are very clearly visible. But again, that's stuff I can come back on and iterate on later on. You know, making sure your game is accessible to the widest amount of people is really kind of luxury problems type stuff of like, you know, jumping the gun a bit if you're thinking about it too early, I think. Important, but less important when you're at the stage where only like a dozen people are going to be playing your game, probably. go. Horrible little gremlin. Oh, maybe it would be weirder and grosser if the eyes went entirely. Because that's kind of what the deal is with our bat creatures. They just don't have eyes. I give it wonky eyes that are like closed shut. So it's just running around eyeless. That's kind of disturbing. I need to take the smile off the mouth as well. Maybe we do a sort of zombie gape. Like that. Yeah, spores growing from the back is a good idea. Let me think of... This is maybe this colour. Sorry that these are so bodily. If I copy that across for a minute and put it on another layer, then I can take some kind of colours and stuff from it. So, we've got these booger looking bit. It's sort of turning a little bit into a Minecraft mushroom, but I don't have a problem with that. So we're going to put some bits that really kind of protrude. And they sort of help with the jumping as well. And then 3 like that. Maybe around the eye. We're going sort of Last of Us Cordyceps kind of direction as well, I guess. And maybe because it's the grossest thing I can think of, we'll just turn the udders that color as well. Poor goat. And then let's take this color and feed it around those sections. And that should create a bit of an association between those two things. Don't drink the green milk. Oh, it needs to make green milk as well, doesn't it? And if you, what happens if you put green milk in a recipe? I like having these outlines where certain things are in a lighter color. It makes them look sort of translucent, I guess. Well, that's horrific. Oh dear. And then I just need to change the colors for the dead version. So if I go back to our infected goat and I'll take out those, copy this across to our dead one and add a new frame, and then I can copy colors from here. And like I said, I'm going to desaturate them a little bit so that it looks, you can sort of see a state change when it dies. I think that's just generally a helpful thing to do as an overall rule of the game, is that when something dies, it sort of becomes a bit desaturated. Just helps to immediately distinguish that has happened. Because we don't have loads of frames of animation, and I don't intend to do loads of frames of animation because they will slow down iteration on the whole game. The you know, I might put more work into animation in certain parts of the game that, you know, like the main character and stuff later on if I feel like they'll really benefit from it, but trying to keep the general animation count as low as possible. So yeah, this kind of thing is like deliberate limitations so that I don't create too much work for myself going forward. And maybe when it dies, it should make a choker. Maybe that's a thing that happens, is when these die, they turn into one of those things, which I think someone already actually suggested. I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon because I've got to take one of my kids to a appointment thingy. But we have got a lot done. I appreciate people joining these streams because, like, I mean, even if I was just doing it on my own and talking to myself, it would be a helpful thing to do as a practice. But it is nice to have people chipping in ideas and I think what I'll do, I won't give the because I need to wrap this up soon. Is I will basically get this working so that we can generate a infected goat, and it has all the same behaviors as a regular goat, and it can die, and it does all the same things. And then I will iterate on that later on because I do want them to do different stuff. But I just don't have time to do that now. So we're gonna make our infected goat here, and then when it dies, it turns into a infected dead goat. And then when we create an infected dead goat, so we're finding the nearest solid block and checking that it's not a fungus. And then creating a fungus block there. And that will allow it to feel like it's spreading, I guess. That's not going to be a dramatic difference, but it at least means if they kind of die on a piece of soil or whatever, they should turn that into a fungus. And then the fungus will already have its code that allows it to spread and stuff like that. So. No, the goat sprite isn't going away when it dies. It's just dying and turning the ground near it into a thing, so it's not destroying itself. I might make it spawn a choker as well, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe, hang on. What's it called? Poison cloud spawner. Okay. Poison cloud spawner. Let's try and get as much of it in as we can. So if the distance to the nearest solid is less than 48, so if it dies basically on the ground, we save the nearest solid in this variable. And then if the nearest solid is not a fungus, we create a fungus, we destroy the previous solid that was in that location, and then we create a poison cloud spawner as well. And then we also need to make sure that the poison clouds can turn a goat into an infected goat. So we're going to take our regular goat and we're going to give it a spores equals 1. Spores equals 0. And then just to keep this simple, every time this is colliding with a poison cloud, we will do spores plus equal 1. And if spores equals 100, we're going to swap the item out for the infected version of the goat. That's quite a difficult situation to make. Well, it might be quite a difficult situation to make happen, but the rarer these situations are, the more they are going to translate into moments of surprise and delight, which is what a game like this is meant to generate, I think. You know, when you make a very sort of proceduralist game with all of these weird little interactions, you want people to basically find out by accident that things happen and then learn it and then exploit that thing somehow later on. And I don't even know what those possible exploits will be at this stage. But for example, you know, I'm not going to do it now, but if an infected goat runs around really fast, then you could deliberately use an infected goat to smash more jars for you more quickly or something like that. I don't know at this stage, but okay, I'm going to make a hatchery. I'm going to throw the eggs away so that I don't have bats to contend with. That was one of the first interactions I designed with this. I'm going to throw that guy into the spores. Are you getting spored up? Oh yeah, he converted. Okay, now we need an axe to kill the thing, to kill the spore goat. Spore goat is such a like doom metal band name. But I don't think they should eat anymore. I think maybe their diet should change and they eat meat and bite you or something. Right, I need the axe. I can't get the axe. I've built my level poorly. Okay, well we know that they transform. I'll just restart quickly. I need to build my level so it doesn't stop me getting an axe. Clearing. I know what I keep forgetting I can do this. Okay, I'll just go to my init room and change. So I don't need all these chasms now, but I do need a clearing. So I'm gonna. I always forget I've got this. I should add a debug tool in the actual game to click on the names of things and add them to the deck, but I not there yet. Okay, so goat. We've got a goat. We need a monster room so that we can fumigate the goat and turn it into a evil goat or an infected goat. Maybe not evil. It can't help it. Now I don't know how spored up it's going to get when it's on the floor like that, because the clouds generally don't come down from where they are. Oh, there we go. The goat the goat fell on the monster's head and knocked it out, which is good. Okay. So let's bring you in here. And gonna whack him, boss. Oh. Okay, I've done something in the wrong order there. How anticlimactic. Right, I will fix that, and then that will be the lot for today. So it's infected goat. Yeah, it's just because I destroyed the nearest solid before. Okay, clearing, that gives us our axe. Nest should give us our spore clouds. That's not what was supposed to happen. Okay, I know what to do here. Okay, so var fungus x equals var fungus. So I just need to store the location of the nearest solid block and then delete it in the right order. So and the reason for that is that sometimes blocks already check to see if there's a current block there when they spawn, and then they don't spawn if there's something there. So I need to destroy the block that's at the location before I build the other block. But in order to do that, I need to make sure I save my location references from the block I destroy before I destroy it. So that should fix what just happened. I think that will do it. Hi, Zip Strike. Thanks for joining today, folks. I know I stream at a weird time depending on where people are, but I just generally try not to stream in the evenings here because it's difficult when you got kids. It's not a good time of day to be streaming unless you're up really, really late. And then they don't want to go to bed because they're like, what are you doing? I've locked myself out. I definitely need more ways to clear the chungus. Let's see if I can just do it, though, without... Did I already build the fire pit thing over there? Because if I did, I have no other way to get through that wall. Okay, so camp. We cut down a branch. We go, we light that, we light the cauldron, and then I can... That is the danger of using the fire to clear the to clear the red rooms. I completely forgot about Aki. Basically, I had no idea there was an instance replace function, so you've helped me out there. I will use that in future rather than destroying one thing and adding another. Okay, so we've got our axe. We've got our goat. We're going to take the goat in there to get infected. If you've only just joined the stream, we started out doing loads of cute stuff with feeding goats food so that it would make milk and we could turn it into ice cream. And it was all lovely. And now we're doing bad stuff with goats. Throw them up there. Come on, get spored up. I'm glad that my fails in the game are amusing. That's what I want to generate. Yeah! Yeeting the goat up in the air to deliberately try and infect it. There you go, guys. I turned the game into The Last of Us. We have an ecosystem. we have an ecosystem. The disgusting chungus can now spread via fungal goat. Actually, maybe... can the goat get infected if you're holding it? I'm not sure. I can't remember. Maybe. I mean, it should do, right? Because it's breathing. It's based on breathing. So I feel like it should still be... But to be honest, you can't hold the goat for very long anyway because it jumps out of your hand. So it's not going to make a great deal of difference. I do think that if I pick up the mushroom goat that when it's dead and throw it... Or even actually normally, as it walks around... Oh, you know what? I need to do one more thing. I need to do one more thing before I forget. Okay, so this is the normal behavior for eating that the goat has. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slap this on the end. So when the goat is alive, when the fungal goat is alive, I'll write this in as a comment. When the fungal goat is alive, it will constantly try to turn nearby I'm going to say soil into fungus. So we're going to limit it to the soil blocks. So it won't do this in a grey room. And this means if you have one of these running around in a green room, it's going to gradually turn it into a red room. And then the end of the world will happen. And just one more thing, yeah. It's because you pesky folks keep giving me ideas just by being there. It's terrible. Okay, so we're gonna make a green room over here, a couple of green rooms, and then hopefully I don't get stuck. But stop behaving like a goat. Those are really disgusting, those things. Okay. Take the goat in here and just let him run around. Oh no, look what he's done. And that would mean if there was another creature in there, it would get infected and start doing the same thing. Terrible. Someone needs to put an end to this. I need more ways to get fire. I think that might be one of the next things on the list, but I don't know how to do it without making it too easy. Because at the moment it's just there is a particular room you can draft that has a fire in. He teleported over there. My object collision stuff is really very strange in places. This one doesn't seem to be making any clouds. And I'm okay with that. That's fine. It might be because there's not enough space around it. Can't really remember how I programmed that. It was so many years ago. Like last week. Oh, they killed him! Pesky. Yeah, Metroidvania is a game where there is a room made of meat and a bat. That's actually the technical definition of a Metroidvania. If it doesn't have those things, it's not a Metroidvania. Such a cheeky goat. I can't remember if I set them to do that less if they've been fed. Will you let me carry you? Ah! I did the drop through command when I was walking across that hole. Oh, that's a good idea, yeah. Maybe the fungo eats the spawners, the little cloud spawners, and then it emits its own clouds. Just goes around farting out spores. It's like an evolution of the fungus creature, where it's like the fungus creature now has legs and can walk itself around, but it eats the other fungus. That's a cool idea. We've got 2 clearings. It is very easy to fall into just like building the level in a line like this sometimes, but I will do stuff to mitigate that later on. I'll have some more rooms that go up and down and incentives to go up and down. I've got some ideas around that already. Okay. Go, 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 fungal goat. The way that the... so I didn't really want to animate the spore emitters appearing, so they just fade in, and it kind of reminds me of the Yellow Submarine. There's bits in the Yellow Submarine where there's like all of these weird underground corals, and there's this sort of animation style with what the object is kind of makes me think of that. So if I was in that situation, I would then want to go and create a fire and run in there with it and try and clear it, but I don't have any way of lighting a fire. I love that the axes get stuck in spinning mode when you pause the game as well. Like that. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Ah, there we go. We might just be able to do it. That's an annoying jump. I think I can just about make that one, yeah. If I light this cauldron, then I can use that that fire as a checkpoint to come back and get fire as well. The thing that's irritating is that the spores put the fire out, so you can't always reliably just run in there and just clear the whole room in one go. You have to wait until they've stopped kind of exhaling, as it were. I've got a clear pit there. I might be able to go in from that side. Ah. Ah. No. There you go. What I'd also like in this game eventually is if I get a really good illustrator or learn to draw, I'd have it so that when you die of a particular thing, you get like a flashcard of like Lem with mushrooms growing out of them, or Lem with, I don't know, falling into the void, or Lem on fire, or whatever. I'd like to eventually have that. So you just get like a second of that image come up that shows you how you died. And then you're back here. Yeah, it is very immediate. But yeah. I'll finesse that stuff later on. But yeah, we got a lot done today. Thank you for joining. This is the type of stream I could sit here and do this for like 6 hours, but I need to go and do stuff with my kids because it is the summer holiday and they are needing stuff. So I will go and do the stuff I need to do. I will be back on Thursday with Indies Under the Knife. I cannot remember off the top of my head what we've got queued up for that. Let me go and have a look. What are we doing on Thursday? Right, same time Thursday, same slot Thursday. We are looking at management and God games. So I wanted to do an entire stream that was just God games, but I hadn't had enough submitted. So if you're watching this and you're randomly making a God game, if you submit it in the next day, I might look at it and slot it into the stream. But yeah, Thursday is God games and management games that sort of share some mechanics, I guess. I guess God game is more of a theme that's applied to a style of management game. But thank you all for joining. Hope you learnt a lot about infected goats. And how to deal with global fungal apocalypse.